Put your name right here, and we're already on, but this is more just like, and you are representing Christ Church in here. Are you representing one or the other?
I'm here with Christ Church, but
Okay.
I am employed both. So.
Right. All right. So we will show that. This is the coolest thing. I didn't know you could do this until like a couple minutes ago.
Nice.
How are you?
I'm well. Thanks for asking. How are you?
I'm doing well. Thanks. It's really good to see so many friends and people from around.
Yeah. Worship was great today.
Wasn't it? We should be able to worship at Hogwarts all the time. No, I mentioned it like in the pre-show kind of thing, but like I love that space, and I love how the stained glass. I mean, in some ways there are prettier stained glass windows, yes, but I love how they look like stones. Mm-hmm. So it's like it feels like the stones crying out, and like
it's majestic.
They become this window to this other reality.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Graduation was here for me just this last May, so it was kind of fun
to
revisit the space.
That's awesome. So I invited you to kind of, I mean, we've kind of crossed paths through children's and youth ministry kind of stuff, but I know you do work with Christian formation in both of those places. Just kind of give you an opportunity to talk about whatever you want to within that.
Well, and actually, I'm in Christian formation at St. Mary's, but at Christ Church, I'm the executive minister, which looks like more meeting with leaders and building system and bringing order to the larger church in some ways. But they're both exciting. They're both part-time. I love what I do in each place. St. Mary's is it's just a great church. It's a solid, young families, vibrant church. And there I get to work with different populations of people, helping each one of them kind of coalesce around actually one of the ideas that you brought in the forum that you hosted at St. Francis House about having implicit curriculum that allows the entire church, and particularly the children's and adults education ministries, but I'm trying to help to infuse that in the church right now. And it's great because this year we've kind of centered around learning more about the Book of Common Prayer and how to use it in our devotional lives. And so we've brought a little more explicit curriculum through using a liturgy. And we've continued to want to do that in each one of our discipleship forums.
That's awesome. Let me ask you, kind of maybe jumping from church to church, but the executive ministry thing, I think is really fascinating because, and maybe the reason I remember the Christian formation more is because I just kind of had that. This other one is a little invented in a great way.
Yeah.
Has that work come in contact with this idea of implicit curriculum, or like how do you situate folks to? I'm guessing a little bit about what you're trying to do, but you're trying to work with leaders, situating them just by the way you frame what they're doing to do what they're doing.
So the way that in a corporate structure, in a larger business structure, we might think about having a system.
Yeah.
I think at some level, that's exactly what implicit curriculum allows you to do with discipleship. So if you think about the fact that what you're trying to do is infuse and bring forward a mission of learning, I think what I'm doing as an executive minister, probably you just take that a level higher for the entire church and thinking about how is everyone at church going to grow, not just in their knowledge and ability to worship, but in their ability to be part of the body. And so that's more what I'm doing. And some of that requires help. You know, we have a 24-year administrator that retired this year. And so some of my job has looked like taking what she has done over 26 years and slowly distribute it to the places like the vestry and some leadership structures that we have of lay folks who lead different ministries. So that's a lot of what this last year has looked like. And anytime you have ministry that you've done for a long time, and we have loved Roberta in our church, it takes quite a bit of doing just to undo what they're doing in such a way that we can hand it off to other people. And so part of what I've done is find the way to decide who we're going to hire in the next season. And this is all a difficult thing to do while you have a priest who needs to run the sacerdotal part of the church. He has a different role that only he can do, but some of these things can be done by someone who is capable of doing that. And we've planted a church, my husband and I, together in Dallas. That's what we did for the first 5 years out of seminary. And so I took a lot of the skills that I used there. They hired me as well in that situation to help to build and make systems where there are none. Now here we have some systems in place, and now we're getting them into a place and getting ready to grow. That's our vision for this year, is that we're taking this year to get the church ready to grow it. And so revitalization is very similar, and that's what I would say I'm doing there and helping alongside with my husband to revitalize a congregation that has, in its different seasons, been a large, vital church, and it has gotten smaller, and the population has aged some, and we've not done everything we could to bring in younger and more diverse worshipers. And so our town in Delavan is somewhere between 35 and 50% Hispanic, and so that's part of what we're growing. That alone takes time and energy, and my husband spends a lot of time in our downtown, which we're right on. We're part of making relationships and seeing how he can be pastoring the people of our entire town. So that's one of the strategies that we employ there too.
So much what you're talking about makes me think of, this is the bishop's theme for this year, we were talking about earlier, is for such a time as this. And it made me think of Leslie Newdigan, who talks about trying to figure out what the Spirit is calling us to, not everywhere, but this place, this time, this moment, and being prepared for that. And I think a lot of what you're describing is that the church, in some ways, we find ourselves trying to be loyal to someone else's discernment from a previous time, and how to become open to this moment, this time, not as an act of disloyalty, but saying now it's time to do that thing again, because it actually isn't doing that thing to just hold it.
Dwight Shiley's book, which we did as our read last year as a diocese, People of the Way, he describes that beautifully. You take what is good and what is admirable from your past and you bring it forward. And if you're not doing that, then you're dishonoring those who have come before you and the Spirit of God in that place that has done beautiful things. And so that's a constant desire and a goal before us, is to bless that which has come and to make room for and to grow for the next generation. And so, and for more people, not just young. I mean, young is an important thing. We all need members to come behind and fill those places, but also more diverse, to look more like our entire downtown. We're very blessed in Delavan that our business leaders do mirror our town. We have a diversity of business leaders, and so we want to see that the church does the same, and our church is very open to that. And that was part of the call 3 years ago for my husband, was that he was able to do those things. He has done missions to Peru, as we both have, and his heart is maybe his heart makes up for what he can't speak in the language, but he's capable of really reaching out to people of different cultures, and certainly has loved and is loved in our downtown by our Hispanic business owners. So I am just really thankful. When we moved here 3 years ago, I felt like the Lord gave me the scripture, send out your Spirit and renew the face of the earth, is that scripture, but the Lord said specifically, renew the face of Delavan. And so I prayed that up and down, literally, our downtown, every time I walked it, every time I drove my car. And it's interesting because it's happening in all different ways that I wouldn't have imagined. Sometimes I specifically, and I share this with my husband, this is really a ministry that's at the core of my heart. I would walk up to houses And I'm just like, Lord, help these people to have what they need to bring the best out of this home. And I've actually watched the Lord answer prayer within a week's time. The house across the street was painted. I opened my shade and it was painted this beautiful yellow color. And I went to the owners and I said, boy, this is lovely. Thank you for how you're, changing the face of our little street here where we live. And we live near the church there. And they said, it's funny. We don't own this house. But the owners called us last week and said they'd really like to do some renovations and would we allow that? And I just thought, and I just kind of tucked that in my little, the Lord is at work here. So.
And one thing I'm taking away listening to you talk about that, and I don't know, I find in some places it's not as big a deal, but in some places it's, I don't want it to be like, I think it's worth saying anyway, even to cap an obvious thing. So, the prayer, like, Lord, renew the face of the earth, and then you, in your instinct, when you hear is, Lord, renew the face of Delaware. In so many places, just pray that prayer for the congregation, the context, as if they would be separate, as if their congregation isn't a part of being a catalyst or weapon of whatever good thing God is doing.
We're Episcopalians. We think in terms of parishes, and
Sure.
the parish is every single person between you and the next Episcopal church, in our opinion, and so that's kind of how we go about it.
That's good.
Yeah.
I want to honor your time, let you get back to the goodness, but we have been asking 3 questions of every person who comes in, and these are, Tammy, you can just give like your rapid fire answer to these questions. What is one thing you wish Christians would talk more about?
Prayer.
Prayer.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that's good.
Power of God. Prayer.
This may be the same answer. What is one spiritual practice that you wish Christians would kind of rediscover or explore?
Silence.
Oh, wow. That's really good.
It's hard to talk after someone says to me that.
I don't want to say words over there. I don't want to say, I have learned to trust silence enough. I don't think you need to say more than that. Finally, Karl Barth one time said, laughter is the closest thing to the grace of God. What makes you laugh?
Lots of things. Just even watching someone have to not try to keep silence when they're supposed to talk. Just people make me laugh. And I think, I don't mean that in a cruel way. I mean that in, being with people and being filled with joy and, feeling like we're together in something in a community. That's where I probably laugh the most, is in community. So in our family, in our church.
Well, thank you, Tammy. This is real good.
Thank you. Absolutely.